I promised that the director, Rachel Lambert, would be here, but I believe she is caught in traffic.
不好意思，谢谢大家留下来。我知道我刚才开场的时候有讲导演会到现场，不过他现在好像卡在交通上，所以可能要稍后一下。
This is always a programmer's nightmare.
会是选片人的噩梦。
So we have to kill time. Oh. And now, the director of Sometimes I Think About Dying, Rachel Lambert.
I ran from the car. I was like, Kim's waiting. Hello.
Hey, 大家好。
Well, you missed your applause earlier.
It's okay. It would have made me uncomfortable. So it's probably good I missed it.
You doing okay?
Oh, okay.
I am now.
Okay. I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
Congrats on the film, and you know, I'm so glad that we were able to share it with the audience here in Taipei. I'll ask a couple of questions, and then we'll let you guys ask Rachel some questions, because I want her to hear from an audience that is not American.
Yes.
Oh gosh, where to start? I mean, I guess one of the things that I would like to know is, because we showed the short film, Sometimes I Think About Dying.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Whenever that was it 2017 maybe?
Something like that, yeah. I don't recall I had nothing to do with the short.
Right, and so that's my question.
I cheated up. Sort of like how I got involved.
不好意思 ，sorry。所以先翻译一下前面那一段。我们总监恭喜导演他的影片入围，然后也很感谢他能够跟台湾观众分享他的影片。那我们先以几个问题开启今天的 Q&A， 那之后会把时间交给观众，因为他也很希望导演 Rachel 可以听到台湾观众的反应跟想法。那第一个问题是想要问，因为这部片它其实是改编自一个同名短片，想要问这部片是怎么开始的
？So the screenwriters, they were the team that made the short, and they endeavored to make a feature story, and then I think they hit a roadblock in terms of figuring out how to realize it. So they sent it to Alex, my producer, and she read it and loved it right away, and then sent it to me, and I just flipped for it. Not only because of the character of Fran and the story, but there was so much space in the script. They left so much space for me. Like they didn't stipulate where she worked. They didn't stipulate what the visions looked like. They left a lot of open areas for invention, which, as I'm sure you know, is rare in a script. So there was such a combination of character and theme and story and space for me as an artist to get to play. And I came to them, me and Alex came to them and said, okay, like if you would allow us, we'd love to tell the story. And they did. So I was really grateful.
这个故事一开始就是编剧们写的，那编剧们为了短片写的故事，那时候他们其实也希望把这个故事做成长片，但是不知道为什么没有办法完成。那后来就把这个剧本交给了我的制片 Alex， 然后 Alex 读了之后就非常喜欢，然后他就寄给我看，然后我就立刻也就看完了。那当下我就对 Fran 这个角色印象非常深刻，然后也对这个剧本的留白感到非常兴奋。这个剧本真的给我非常大的空间去发挥，他甚至并没有写出 Fran 他是在怎么样的一个空间工作，然后也并没有写出就可能一些视觉的样子，他们都留白。所以我就非常的兴奋。那我想可能大家都知道，就这件事情在剧本上是比较少见的，所以我觉得可以合并我对角色的想象、对空间的想象去创作，对我来说很难得。那我就问他们可不可以让我改编成长片，很高兴他们答应了。
I feel like this is a challenging film to make, because I mean one of the things that I love so much about this film is like there's such humor in the mundane.
Yes.
and then the other challenge is your protagonist is so particular,
Yeah.
very closed off, and how do you make that character, the
centerpiece?
The centerpiece, absolutely.
Yeah.
这个问题是 ，sorry，
No.
这个问题是说，刚才总监说，相信这部片是蛮难拍成的。那总监非常喜欢这部片里面的幽默，而且是在平庸平常生活里面找到的幽默。那他也注意到这个主角他其实非常有个人特色，然后有时候这个角色他也蛮就是活在自己的世界里面的。那他想要问说，导演怎么样把这个角色带出来，让他变成是一个主角。
So, I think the way that I dealt with that, because as you know, the short had voiceover, and the one thing I was committed to doing different from the short from the beginning was to not have it. And in order to really achieve that, I think two things had to be true. The first was the humor had to come from a world that felt so well built that we believed and felt we lived in it with her. So we're just so situated with her in that world that feels very alive. And then the camera, it had to be a first person camera. And we had to figure out a grammar and a way of orienting the camera so that the cut and even sometimes the staging, the camera became her mind. So that way we were experiencing her thoughts and feelings by virtue of the cinema, if that makes sense.
对，其实我一开始看到短片，他们是用非常多的话外音、旁白去处理女主角的内心这件事情，我就不太想要重复这个手法，所以我在长片的时候，我就要想办法让女主角的内心世界被看见。那我想了2种方法，那我觉得2种方法要能够成立，这个片子也才能够有说服力。第一种方法就是我会希望她的世界是很真实的。我希望你们会觉得这个女主角她真实在这个办公室空间跟在她的家里是住过的，那在这个空间内才能够产生一种幽默。那第二点就是说，这是第一人称叙事，所以完全需要用她的视角出发。所以我们会必须要找到一种文法、一种运镜的方式，还有一种剪辑的方式，还有一种陈设的方式，来让你感觉到这完全是从他的视角出发看到的一个世界。所以我们就让这个镜头成为了他的眼睛，我们看到了就是他看到的世界，我们就可以体验他每天的感受。
Just to say, you did an extraordinary job.
Thank you, Kim.
I'm sure the question on everybody's mind is, how on earth did you get Daisy Ridley to play this character who is so full of tropes and,
Full of tropes, I love that. Like, how did she get involved?
And in this little indie film.
然后总监想要恭喜导演，这个电影真的拍得非常棒。那想要问一下女主角Daisy Ridley， 她是怎么样开始参与这一部片的？那她演的也是一个非常充满怪癖的角色，想要知道怎么找到她的。
A lot of it comes down to her own efforts to make sure that she was seen and known by a lot of people making independent films that she was interested. So she definitely made that effort. Additionally, she saw a film of mine I made years ago called In the Radiant City, and she really liked it, and then added me to this list of filmmakers that whenever she would attach to a film, she'd say, here's this list of filmmakers I want to work with. And I would get sent the scripts. I wasn't going to get those jobs because they were not indie films. But I learned her taste. You read scripts that someone wants to do and you're like, oh. And I picked up on the kind of characters that she was interested in. I learned that she's really funny and kind of darkly funny. I learned a lot about her by virtue of what she liked. So then when I read this, my very first conversation with Alex, I said, this is Daisy Ridley's role. And we went to her with it. I mean, I think in a matter of days, I think it was literally 2 days later, she said yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it was amazing.
其实演员Daisy Ridley 她蛮想要进入独立制片这个世界，所以她很希望某一些她很喜欢的独立制片的导演注意到她。那她其实之前很久就看过导演另外一个作品叫做《光辉之城》。那她其实那个时候看到这个作品，她就把Rachel 这个导演加到她的名单上。然后每一次呢，有人在问她要不要演片，她就会把她的这个导演名单给对方。那可是那个 Rachel 就会说，她永远不会被找，因为每次大家都是有商业片要找她，那她不是商业片导演，所以她一直都没有接到这个工作。但是因为她知道 Rachel 在那个名单，Rachel 知道她自己在名单上，然后她也慢慢的去熟悉了 Daisy 喜欢什么样子的电影，什么样子的角色。然后他也知道 Daisy 其实是一个蛮幽默的人，而且是那种黑色幽默。然后也知道他喜欢什么样的角色，所以当他读到这个剧本的时候，他第一时间就跟制片 Alex 说，这个完全就是 Daisy Ridley 的角色。那他相信好像大概Daisy 收到剧本大概2天之后就答应接演了。
All right, and now I want to allow you a chance to ask Rachel some questions.
我们现在就开放观众提问。
Raise your hands.
可以举手。
Don't be shy.
不用害羞。导演人很好。
Right here. Please wait for the mic.
First, thank you very much for creating the movie. I feel somehow connected with the characters and also the situation, and I feel like yeah, you guys are doing really great job on that. And just one thing that I'm somehow curious about is that symbolic scene that they have in the office with the snake and the empty table. I just wanted to know like what we're trying to deliver on that. Yeah.
这个问题是关于影片中的一些比喻或者是意象。我们在办公室里面有时候会看到蛇，看到空荡荡的办公桌，想要问导演想要传达什么呢？
Can I ask you what you thought?
我想要問你覺得那是什麼意思？
I think it's the dark side of her, but it's really different from the dark side she had at her home. So I feel like it's like kind of a fight to the outside environment or others, but I'm not really sure about like when the snake comes in, because I feel like that is like a comfort space at first, but when the snakes came in, I'm not really sure, is that like Robert or others? Yeah.
对，这位观众说，他觉得好像这些意象是代表 Daisy 这个角色的黑暗面，但是这个办公室的黑暗面跟他家里的黑暗面好像又不太一样。对，就好像是这个蛇是不是有点像是 Robert 这个角色？他进到办公室之后，这个办公室就再也不是一个舒适的空间了。
I love that answer.
我很喜欢那个答案。
That sounds good.
听起来很棒。
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's more real than anything I could tell you right now.
比他可以抢到的答案都还更真实。
I could offer my interpretation if you want to know. It's a little different.
你想要知道的话，他也可以分享他的想法。
It's similar to your read. My read is more like I definitely think it has to do with the threat of what she doesn't know, and that's often other people and being a person and social, that stuff. But I think generally the snake is really just her sense of threat and I think the specificity of what that threat could be, I think symbolism only works if you leave enough space for the audience to participate in the symbolism. If you become too explicit, then it becomes, then I'm teaching you as opposed to inviting you to participate. So.
我的诠释会跟这位观众差不多。对我来说是比较概括的，就是这个蛇代表的是一种威胁，一种对未知的恐惧。那对 Daisy 来说，可能是对他人的恐惧，对做人的恐惧，对社交的恐惧。但是你要说这个威胁有什么很特定的东西吗？好像也没有。那我通常会觉得，如果是一个隐喻，它通常是要留空间给观众去诠释，给观众去参与，一起想象。如果它是一个太直接的比喻的话，我觉得好像就是在教导观众一件事情，而不是邀请观众来一起参与。
Question over on this side.
Hello. First of all, thank you for sharing this movie. And I have a two-part question. So first of all, I understand that this movie happens in a very confined, cozy space, and that can be very tricky as well because all the actions have to be very, very particular. So I was wondering how much rehearsal went into this process with blocking and etc. And
that's a quick answer.
他可以很快回答问题。
Zero.
刚才的问题是说，因为在一个小空间表演，所以花了多少时间排练？但是导演说完全没有花时间排练。
And the second question I have is the location plays a very big part. It's almost its own character in the movie. And my question would be why you chose to use Oregon, I believe. Yeah.
It's a town called Astoria.
Astoria, as the main location for this.
这个问题是关于我们这个场景场地，观众认为说这个地方也是电影中一个很大的部分，甚至像是自己一个角色一样，所以为什么导演会选择在奥利冈这个 Astoria 这个小镇拍摄
？Thank you for saying that the sense of place was so profound for you. That's really great to hear. It means a lot to me. I think I chose that town in my locations. I cast locations the way I do actors. It's very important to me, including the office. It's very important. And I liked that town the best because it has an heirloom quality to it. It feels not of time in a way. It feels suspended a little bit. And it's kind of in its own sense of conflict. It's just like France. She's a modern person living in a modern world, but she doesn't feel, I think, of her place in time, or something doesn't feel like she doesn't fit. And there was something about this town that it's obviously the 21st century to some extent, but then there's times where you're like, is it the 21st century? I don't know. It feels like a little, bottle washed up to the shore or something. It doesn't feel fully situated. Does that make sense? I don't know.
他说谢谢观众的分享。他说，关于你对这个场地、这个场景这么有感觉，我真的觉得意义深重。那我自己选择场景跟场地，或者是甚至像这种办公室空间，对我来说就也很像选角的过程，跟我选演员是一样重要的。那对我来说，选这个小镇很大的原因是这个小镇有一种很闷的感觉，好像空气不会流动的感觉，而且好像这个小镇没有属于某一个时空，它好像是一个停滞的状态。然后这个小镇好像就是某种氛围上也有跟自己的一些冲突。那也很像 Daisy 这个角色，就他是一个现代人，他活在现代的世界里，可是他却在一个好像是一个在过去的，然后不太知道是什么时空的地方，所以他就有一种格格不入感。你就会觉得好像这个片也是在21世纪，但是你看到这个小镇的样貌的时候，你就觉得好像不是21世纪，就这东西很像，这个地方很像是一个被冲刷上岸的一个老旧的瓶子。
And did you shoot during COVID? there's nobody else around in this
Yeah.
town.
在疫情当中拍的吗？讲说都没有人。
Oh, sorry. We shot during the Delta surge.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, you felt the isolation and the displacement that we all experienced. And I think at first when the Delta surge happened, I think Alex was scared for as a producer, oh dear, but I was like, we should embrace it. I think it'll make it better, that we just feel like we live in this alien environment.
It totally works.
I'm glad. It's great to hear.
对，没错，这部片是在疫情当中拍的，然后是在 Delta 变异株出来的时候拍的。然后其实这部片的主题也是关于孤独，关于移居，所以那也就是我们大家都经历过的那一段时光。他就说那个时候 Delta 变异株出来的时候，他们的制片 Alex 非常紧张，但是导演本人其实是他非常的拥抱这个情况，因为他觉得这个情况其实会让这部片变得更好。
There's a question way in back.
后面有一个问题。
导演你好，然后很高兴可以看这部电影。很好奇导演在影像风格上面的选择。因为在看这部电影的时候的开头，它其实有点很像是美国早期的一些电视剧的这个片头，可能有一点带温馨可爱的这种感觉，但整部片可能呈现出像刚您提到的比较是沉重，跟在探讨一个个人是否可以融进这个环境的一个主题。那在这个整体的影像风格选择上，你有做过什么样子的决定吗？然后在剪接上面是否有遇到什么样子的挑战？那我印象还非常深刻，有一场戏是那个女主角跟已经离过婚2次的男生吵完架，也不算吵架，就是有点冲突之后，隔天开车的时候就是有一个车祸的发生。那个部分跟原本在电影里面的步调或者是风格就差非常多，然后有很多蒙太奇的手法。我蛮想了解，就是导演在设计那一个部分的时候是什么样的想法，这样子，谢谢。
So she's very happy to see the film, and she has a few questions that she's curious about. Firstly, about the style of the film. So she feels like at the beginning of the film, it kind of feels like early American TV show. There is that cozy, homey feel, but then it gets heavier. So that she's wondering whether you've thought about like blending those styles, or what went through your mind when you were planning sort of the visuals for the film. Do you want me to translate the next one, or you want to answer first?
Yeah, we can take one.
Okay.
Certainly the palette deepens and changes, and the amount of light changes through the course of the film. I'm very sensitive to color. It's an affliction, but it serves my work. So there's a very specific color story happening in the film that has to do with Fran and her environment, her relationship to it, and her relationship to others. So if you were feeling a shift, like there was some relationship between what you were watching her go through or feeling possibly and what you were seeing, that was deliberate. I hesitate to be too prescriptive as to what your experience might have been, because that doesn't seem fair. I don't want to rob you of your experience, but it was deliberate for there to be a change. Yeah.
那导演先回答第一个问题，他说的确没错，这部片子的色彩有越来越暗沉，越来越黑暗， 光也是一样的。那其实跟他本人的一个状态有关，因为他对光跟对色彩非常的敏感，他这也其实也有算是一种问题吧。但他个人觉得他这种敏感度让他的电影更特别了。那他说，像是 Fran 这个主角，他身上颜色的变化，都可以反映着他跟环境、跟其他人的关系。所以，如果你在观影中看到他跟别人的关系改变了，然后这反映在视觉上，这其实都是经过考量的。那当然也不想要就是假设说观众感受到了什么，但是他的确是经过设计的。So the second question is about the editing process. Did you encounter any difficulties that you would like to share?
Yeah, I love sharing my failures. It was, in terms of the process of editing the film, it was one of actually the quickest and swiftest and easiest I've ever had. But there was 2 sections that either proved challenging or were discoveries in the process. The challenging part was the opening. The script originally had this very specific voiceover that tells you what you're going to watch. As Kim was asking about how did we how do we build a world and her mind with the film grammar, I needed to launch that idea immediately using score and picture and how we arranged that. So all the images at the beginning of the film were harvested by Dustin and I, following very specific rules. It had to be at a time of day that Fran would be walking either to or from work. It had to be something she would notice, that I believe that with her own eyes would see and pay attention to. And it had to either follow one of these motifs. It had to either be nature in an unnatural place, the beauty of the unseen, or time slowing. Trying to find the right progression of those images was maddening. And I think there were times that I might have nearly driven my editor Ryan insane, but we got there. It included me calling him at 1 a.m. saying, "She sees the flowers. She sees that thing of flowers in the road." And he's like, "Oh my God, thank God, she's done." The other thing was when they have the conversation, Robert and Fran, over the messenger system. Originally, they just have this conversation and that's it. But all the stuff in the office where they're just being people were things that I would just prompt them to do, or I'd ask them a question and it would make the actor have a little idea and I could capture it, or they would just kind of free-form play, which is one of my favorite ways to work, is to build a playground and then actors just play. But the playground building takes a long time and then they have everything they need to be actors. And there's all this great stuff, and we were just like, I wanted to feel like the environment is somehow feeding or responding to and circulating around what they're doing, or we felt like it just needed something else, and Ryan just started playing and laying in this thing about the fans that happened one day, and it started to become this like Robert Altman thing, where it was like a 360 environment with escalations happening all around, and it was our one little tip of the hat to Altman there. Sorry, that's a lot of talking. Sorry.
其实剪辑的过程是大概我剪过最快也最容易的一支片。那大概有2个部分可以分享，一个就是我遇到的挑战，那另外一个就是我在剪辑的过程中发现的事情。那我遇到的挑战呢，主要是在剪这个开场的部分。我知道旧的剧本其实是用一个话外音开场，就是会有一个话外音告诉你接下来要看到什么。但是我不太想要用那个手法，所以我就想 我要怎么样改变方式来告诉你这个故事大概是关于什么。刚才 Kim 也有提到说要怎么样把这个主角的内在世界跟外在世界串联起来，用这个视觉的语言。那我就想到，我必须要借由音乐，然后跟一些视觉，像我选的就是一些摄影作品这些东西结合来做。那Dustin is your
Dustin.
is
He's
your
the cinematographer.
right 他是Dustin 是摄影师，然后然后他也就是很同意我的这个想法，然后就跟随我这个想法继续做下去。他也跟我讨论，就是说我们要摆放这些物件都要在 Fran 这个主角他会经过的地方，就他要必须可以注意到这些东西。那这些东西呢，也要依循着一个动机，就是或者是一个主题，就是说你要是自然界的东西，或者是完全是非自然的东西。那或者是就是你比较少看过的，或是不会注意到的东西，这样。那我其实就是跟我的剪辑师 Ryan 也是时常讨论，要呈现哪些东西。然后有时候我可能会半夜1点打电话跟他讲，就是画面发生了什么事情，然后 Ryan 就会回我说有了，他有看到花，可以了，对。然后it's about Ryan seeing the flowers。然后还有后来有一些改变，也是那个 Rob 跟 Fran 这两个角色，他们用就是 Messenger 来沟通的时候，一开始我原本只是有这个他们在电脑上沟通的画面，但后来觉得我想要加进办公室的一些气氛，所以我就营造了一个环境，就是把这个办公室当成像是一个游乐场。我一直都很喜欢帮演员制造一个游乐场。但是这个游乐场其实需要花非常多的时间去建立，但是一旦建立起来，演员就有他们所有需要的东西，就可以去表演了。那我也很希望这个环境跟人都是对话的。那所以我就设计了一个小桥段，这其实是我的剪辑师 Ryan 想到了，就有一天有一个同事进来说我的电扇坏掉了，电扇可以借我吗？那个桥段就是有点随性，但他很喜欢这样子的随性的时刻，就有点像是美国导演 Robert Altman 的风格，他就很喜欢在一个空间里面用360度的方式，就是你会看到各个角落都有发生事情，然后好像各个角落都有一些有人有一点情绪啊，有点波动。然后这样子情绪堆砌起来，成为一个办公室的一个生活感。
You've reached the end of your notebook, so I think that is a sign that we need to stop writing on the cardboard part. But we'll wrap things up. And Rachel, I just have to say that I love this film. I think it is so funny and understated in the best way and really beautiful. So congratulations and thank you for being here with us.
再次谢谢导演来这边跟我们分享，然后觉得这部片真的非常棒，而且非常的幽默，然后也是一个很低调的幽默，所以再次感谢导演。